I got this tool from an eBay seller for under $20 shipped. It's pretty simple. Comes with a rubber pad with a bubbled section here. Then you've got this part of the tool for removing the valve, which is basically just a pipe with one end open, one end closed. Then you've got this tool for installing the valve, and that's again basically a pipe, but on one end of it, it's got a smaller pipe there in the center, sticks out just a little bit, and that's spring loaded. And that's for installing the valve. This is for removing the valve. This, in my opinion, is the easiest one to use, and it's also very cheap, like I said, under $20 right now. The first thing you'll need to do is take this rubber pad and set that under the combustion chamber. Now for a stock head, it'll fill the entire combustion chamber, so you just need to place it basically in the center. If you have a big bore head or a big valve head, you may need to place it more to one side or the other so that it holds and presses against the bottom of the valve there. Now I'll use the removal tool, which is the one that just has the open end. I'll take the open end, I'll center it and set it down flat on top of the spring retainer there. And once it's on top of the retainer, you could try to just push down on this, which actually will work, but I find the easiest way is to just take a hammer and tap the end of it. Now hold it, keep holding it the whole time because you don't want to release it and have these keepers or anything fly out, but hold that flat down against there, take the hammer, give it one tap, and you can see, you should feel that the pressure releases. Remove that slowly, and then you can see you've got your keepers and retainer and everything are free. So I just go ahead and grab the keepers out of there with a magnet. You don't want to lose these. Set them aside. Then you can take off the retainer and then remove both your outer and inner valve springs. And I already showed you in the first video, but I'll do it one more time real quick. To remove the valve, you can just press that out. It'll come out the opposite side of the head, and you can pull it out of the head. Then you have this shim that sits below the springs. If you need to remove that, it should come out fairly easy. Just take that off. If you need to know how to remove the valve seal, I showed that in the first video. To reinstall, you'll slide the valve through, like so. Push it all the way up into the head. Then you'll set this down. So again, this rubber bubble here is in the combustion chamber. Now on the top side, you'll start with a shim, slide that all the way down against the seat. Then you can take the small spring, slide that over, the large spring, slide that over. When I'm using this tool, I like to kind of pre-assemble the retainer and the keepers. Now first, looking at the keepers, I showed you this in the first video, but the top of the keeper is always the widest side. It's got kind of a ridge in it. The bottom of the keeper is the thinnest side. And with a retainer, this is the top of your retainer, and this is the bottom of the retainer. So I'm going to take the retainer facing up here, and I'll drop the keepers in one at a time. So the top, again, is facing up to the top of the retainer there. And they should look something like that. You should see that they kind of butt up against each other. Now I'll take the retainer and keepers, and I'll set that on top of the springs and the valve assembly. So now I'm going to use the installation tool, which is the one that has the smaller pipe in the end that's spring loaded. And I'm going to take this smaller pipe, I'm going to try to center it right over the valve stem and the keepers there. And I'll put a little bit of pressure on it. And in this case, I actually prefer not to hit it with a hammer, but just to use my palm and apply pressure down onto it. And what should happen is when I apply pressure, it's going to compress the springs, and usually I'll hear a kind of a pop, and you can tell that the pressure has been relieved and that everything's seated. So I'm going to go ahead and put some pressure down there. You can hear it pop. I'll let up a little bit and then slowly remove it. Before I remove my hand, I want to make very sure that it's seated. So I'm slowly removing it, and you can see it's seated. So you can see it's installed them on the first try. It was very simple, and that's why I like this tool, and I think it's very much worth the money. Now I'll show you removal and installation one more time real quick, just in case I was in the way of any of the shots the first time. So again, I've got this rubber piece underneath of there holding up against the valve. For the removal, I'll use the open-ended piece, just put that centered over top of the valve assembly. I'm going to hang on to that, and I'll give it a tap with a hammer. And there you can see it's all removed. I'll go ahead and line up both of my keepers into the seat here. Okay, those are in place. I can set that back down over the assembly, over the valve and the spring. Now, I'll use the installation tool. Center that. I'm just going to put pressure on that with my palm until I hear it pop. Okay, I can let off. And they're installed. If you still don't like this method or you have no tools available to you, check out the next video and I'll show you a different way to do it with hardly any tools.